like the battery. Oh, man.
It goes down a lot more, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do my best to admit people and introduce as I can. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rabbi Lisa Delson. I am one of the rabbis at Peninsula Temple Shalom, and we are delighted to be hosting Let's Talk Mental Health in a virtual space today. David Korth and Marcy Benson and Marcia Mayer and Judy Cohn all are our leaders in this area of creating this opportunity for our PTS or Peninsula Temple Shalom community, as well as our greater San Mateo County community, to come together and learn and remind ourselves about the stigma of mental health and what we can do to combat that. And we have a special guest this afternoon, Ian Adamson, whom David Korth will also give an introduction to in a moment. I wanted to start us off by recognizing that we are in a time when our mental health and those who struggle with mental health are really at a higher level than possibly any other time. We are staying at home, sheltering in place, isolating ourselves from other human beings physically, but not socially in all cases. And it's given each of us a lot of opportunity to think about the kind of way that we want to interact, the way that we want to be social and be a part of a community. And for many of us, this opportunity has allowed us to jump into community even more than possibly we had before, because we don't have the physical barriers. We don't have okay, now I need to get in my car and I need to schedule this and I need to schedule that and I have all of these appointments. Now we have the opportunity to click a button to see other people's faces and to deepen our understanding and do some learning. And that's truly what these sessions are all about. And I'm so grateful to our team who works together to determine what will be the best for our community and really take steps to strengthen our connections together. And I'm hoping that today fulfills those goals as well. In Jewish tradition, we have a saying that says that you should not separate yourself from the community. And in this time of social physical distancing, we are actually having to separate ourselves from the community. And it offers us the opportunity of figuring out how we can still connect, how we can maintain our relationships, and what those relationships look like. And so I am delighted to turn it over to David Korth for some further introductions, and then on to Mr. Adamson from the Mateo Lodge.
Thank you. I want to ask Diane, it looks like you have shared your screen. And I'm
Yeah.
going to ask if you could turn that off. Meanwhile, thank you, everybody. This is David Korth. I am a congregant, thank you, Diane, at Peninsula Temple Shalom. And I am wanting to first give just a brief overview of what Let's Talk Mental Health series is all about for those who are the first to have joined us. This initiative began at Peninsula Temple Shalom in Burlingame as a social justice initiative, initially focusing on breaking down stigma associated with mental illness and providing a safe community environment where we could each share and learn from one another. We quickly realized, however, that this issue went well beyond the walls of our congregation and soon expanded over the last 3 or 4 years to inviting members of the broader community to join in what up till now were face-to-face large group meetings at Peninsula Temple Shalom, about 4 or 5 times a year. one of the positive things, I suppose, of COVID. There are a few things that come up, and this is our first Zoom virtual meeting that has also allowed us to go beyond San Mateo County. There are members who I believe were invited and indicated an interest from faraway San Jose and the East Bay. So I believe that we are beyond San Mateo County at this point. I wanted to also indicate that for those who have not joined us in the past, and if you would like to be on our contact list for future sessions, please send us an email to Let's Talk MH, all one word, LETSTALKMH at SHOLOM.org. That's again, Let's Talk MH as in mental health at shalom.org. Let us know you're interested in being on our list, and we'll be sure to inform you about our future sessions. So let me see. So today's session will start with a presentation by our guest speaker, Ian Adamson, who I will introduce in just a moment. That'll be followed by a question and answer period. And I want to emphasize this is a question opportunity, not an opportunity to share your story or other information, but really to ask questions. There is always that opportunity to share more information or ask questions beyond today's session by, again, communicating with us through the Let's Talk MH at shalom.org email. As your moderator, I will ask for everyone's forgiveness now if I end up interrupting somebody to get us back on point or manage our time. And so please forgive me. I will try to interrupt with loving kindness, but nonetheless try to keep us on point. With that, I would...
Actually, I'm going to interrupt with loving kindness in this moment, okay. David. I am also our logistical technological moderator for this afternoon. And so I'm going to keep everyone on mute. And if you have a question that you'd like for our speaker or anyone to answer, you can type it in the chat. So if you look along the bottom bar of your screen, you'll notice that pretty much right in the middle, closer to the left, that there's a button that says chat. And if you start typing, the question will be visible to everyone. And we will take those questions in the question and answer section at near the end of our afternoon together. And if you have a question or you need some sort of technological help, there is also a function called raise hand. And if you go to the participants tab at the bottom, you will see a list of all the participants. And if you hover over your own name, it says raise hand, and I'll be able to see you. And I've made it so that no one else can share their screen, so we don't have to worry about that again. And just a reminder that we are recording the session that we will be able to make available after the session. Am I forgetting anything technological?
No, thank you. I was going to also...
What do you do if you dialed in? How do you get a question answered?
David, how do you want to handle that?
Please hold your questions for the question and answer period, which I will announce, and that'll be around the 4 o'clock period. And then if we are, well, that's a great question, which we didn't anticipate. So I'm going to suggest if we don't have a lot of folks on phone, that perhaps we start there with our question. And we'll do our very best to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask their question.
Yeah. And Dr. Levine, I saw your hand up and I unmuted you. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I didn't get the email. I want to come on. And I got Let's Talk MH Shalom. Is that it?
Yes, at SHOLOM.org.
SHO, good.
Yes.
LOM. So it's Let's Talk MH Shalom.
There's an at.
All in lowercase?
I'm putting it in the chat right now so everyone can see it.
Oh, great.
And then you should be able to copy and paste it. All right.
And that is for letting us know that you want to be on our contact list and asking questions offline after the meeting.
Right. And I just want to give a wonderful shout out to the fact that there are 59 of us on today. And so it shows how important and how important these subjects really are. So I appreciate everyone being here today.
Yes. So with that, and no further ado, I'd like to introduce Ian Adamson. Thank you so much, Ian, for volunteering your time to be with us today and for sharing your stories of hope and your stories of the wisdom that you have gained over your many years in the field. I'll let you maybe tell us a little bit about your current work and some of the things you'd like to share with us today. Ian, it's yours. Oh, you're on mute. Hold on.
You want me to?
There we go. Now you could start.
We're good? We're good? Okay, start again. Take two. Very nice of all 59 of you to join us today. Very important topic. I'm aware that, you know, people look to me for lots of answers sometimes, and all I can do is respond with humility to that. This is a huge subject. I've been in the field in this country for 45 years. And prior to that, I did nurse training in England and also ran rehab centers in England. So I have a lot of experience, but at the same time, every time I go to work, I'm very aware of the complexity and the immensity of each family and individual situation. So I try to approach my work with humility and prayer, and hopefully, you know, things work out well. In terms of history of Mateo Lodge, that's the non-profit corporation that I am the executive director of. That was founded in 1975 by a group of parents that had no experience in running mental health programs. The only experience they had was they had a child, an adult child, who was mentally ill, seriously mentally ill. And looking around the county at that time in 1975, I believe there was just one program that was for mentally ill folks in the community, and it was 3 weeks long, and that was it. So they decided that they would grasp the nettle, try and start a program. And these were parents, some of the same parents started the Alliance for the Mentally Ill, the national organization. So we had here in California and also in Minnesota and Wisconsin, groups of parents that were starting to make change and try to make things happen. And in our county, we were very fortunate to have people like Tony and Fran Hoffman and many other wonderful individuals. And what characterized those parents back then was their level of commitment. They didn't just sit and talk in a group. They went out. At one particular time, two of them went into Leo Ryan, Congressman Leo Ryan's office, walked right past his receptionist, burst into his office and sat there pounding on the desk saying, "You have got to do something for mental health." So this was a kind of commitment these folks had. And yet, in saying that they were very demonstrative, they were not obnoxious. They were very loving, very purposeful, and just demanding for the love of their children that something needed to be done. So in 1975, Mateo Lodge was incorporated as a small nonprofit. And what these parents did was to get one house, 6 beds, and they began to run a program. They got a little bit of money from one of the San Francisco foundations, no county money, no contracts, just a little bit of money, put together a skeleton staff. In the beginning, when I joined the organization, don't quote me for EDD purposes, but we were working some weeks 84 hours a week. And they put this program together for 6 individuals and began to take people from Napa State Hospital and some of the other locked facilities. And there was nothing in the community for these folks at that point. The institutionalization had barely begun. And so they began to actually take people from these locked facilities. And we demonstrated that not only could we save the county thousands and thousands of dollars, but from being in an institutionalized setting, we would bring these individuals into a small 6-bed home with compassionate, loving counselors where we were focused on the quality of life of people. And that's something my organization has always focused on, the quality of life. It's not necessarily whether they're working, whether they're active, whether they're doing this or that, but from their point of view, do they feel like they've got a good quality of life? Are they enjoying life? Have they got something to look forward to? So that's where the way we approach things back there. And the program was very successful. And fast forwarding to today, I joined them in 1978 as a counselor, and then moved up as the executive director within a couple of years, and which was then a part-time position with no money. I mean, initially we were paying our counselors about $700 a month. That's all that these folks could afford. And me coming from a culture, in English culture, I thought $700 a month was a lot of money. But I've learned since that it's not quite as much as I thought it was. So we began this 6-bed program. From there, we went to another 6-bed program. And from there, we managed to get a county contract with San Mateo County Mental Health to add a patch to our funding, which allowed us to, because they saw the value of what we're doing and the immense amount of money we were saving them. And plus, the family members were so happy to have their family members back in the community where they could visit, which we've always encouraged, and we always work very closely with family members if they want to be involved. Sadly, some families do not want to be involved. Then from there, we fast forward to today, where we have 3 major sites now where we take care of people 24 hours a day in terms of residential care. We have 57 clients in total in those, 57. We have about 100 clients that we manage in the community, case management, going out, making sure they're taking their meds, making sure they've got enough to eat. We're very responsive. And one of the things we've always practiced in Mateo Lodge is an open door policy. If you are one of our clients, you can call us anytime, 365 days a year, we will respond to you. And we will make sure that, we do everything we can. And if things are going wrong and the psychosis is coming back and the psychosis is winning, and the person ends up not being able to stay in any of our programs, we will get that person in a higher level of care. We do not allow our clients to become homeless, as some other folks do. So in addition to the 100 case managed clients we have on our outreach, homeless outreach and case management services, we have about 250 clients that we see over the year. So we have about 40 full-time staff now. And everybody on staff, my philosophy has always been, if you're trying to provide hope, help, humane, quality of life situations for our clients, we've got to do that for our staff as well. So every staff person has full dental, full medical, vacation, personal leave. We're very, very sympathetic to schedules. We try to work with our staff to make sure that the schedules are flexible. So therefore we attract very compassionate, high quality individuals that want to serve, want to love, want to go the extra mile for our clients. So that's the state of things in San Mateo County today. At the end of the presentation, I'll give you my personal pager number. You can continue any questions you have with me. You can page me, leave me a message. You'll hear my accent. Just leave a message, I'll call you back. And that's for anybody who has any issues whatsoever. So don't feel, if we don't get it done today in the presentation, we'll get it done soon enough, okay? One of the questions that was posed to me as we were thinking about this presentation was, what was it that made me come into this work? And on a personal level, I'll tell you, in England, back in the 70s, I was a professional rock musician. I was playing in a keyboard band, and we could never make enough money being musicians. So I went and took a job as a laborer working in construction, and the construction crew went onto the site of what you would call in this country a state hospital. And there I am in my physical prime with a bunch of Irishmen, Scotsmen, Englishmen, all tough guys, construction guys, demolition crews, and they're absolutely terrified of going into a mental hospital to work. And they're huddling around the little teapot on their break so that they're not going to get attacked by the mentally ill people. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, guys. I'm going to go into the cafeteria and meet some of these folks, just be friendly to them. I did. And I was struck immediately by how beautiful and innocent and guileless these folks were, and how open they were to me, to dialogue with me, to become friends with me on my 15-minute breaks. And then I'd run back to the scared 6'4" muscle-bound men that were terrified of the mentally ill. And I was just struck by that. The compassion within me was touched by the compassion of these individuals that I received in interacting with them. So I actually left my construction job and went into the nursing training program in the hospital, and did that, and it was a fantastic experience. And that's how I got into it. And then how I got to America simply was I met a beautiful California woman at a conference, a religious conference in England, fell in love instantly, first love at first sight, married her. We have been married 40 odd years now, and we have 3 beautiful children. A little bit of personal history. The other thing that somebody asked was, do you have any inspirational stories? Well, you can imagine in 45 years of working with the mentally ill, I have so many stories that were that are pretty, I would say, spectacular, you know, wonderful stories of people getting help and getting on with their lives. It's not to say that that happens for everybody. It doesn't. You might be in a family situation where things are very, very difficult. And I have a lot of sympathy for that. But the reason I got into the work, when I came to America, I looked around, I live in Santa Cruz. I looked around and I thought, if I'm going to be a family man now, which I was going to be, I need to be a provider. So I'm going to go into Silicon Valley and make enough money to support a family. So I went back to Cabrillo College, got an electronics degree in 11 months. And I'll tell you how to do that if you want to know. And then my wife says to me, Ian, you should stick with the mentally ill. Because you're really good at it. And my wife is not one that hands out compliments. She loves me, yes, but she won't hand out compliments just to make somebody happy. I really felt the voice of wisdom there, and I thought, I've got to look at that. So instead of going into Silicon Valley, I came back to Mateo Lodge and became the executive director. That's the personal note on that. In terms of inspirational stories in my past of people that were mentally ill that really influenced me, I want to tell you 2 brief vignettes on that. My spiritual mentor, a young man from the Christian tradition, one of the men, probably the most influential man in my life, was a man named Albert Curley. And I got to know Bert because he was a star soccer player, and I've been coaching soccer all my life until I got too old to do it. And I loved to play soccer when I could. He was a star soccer player locally, and he ran our youth club at their church. And as I got to know Bert as a loving, strong ex-Marine, fantastic guy, full of love and spiritual discipline, and could deal with anything. As a wonderful man, I learned that he had spent 2 years in a mental institution, suffering from the worst depression you can imagine. And he fought his way out of that with the help that he got from the clinicians and from inspired literature. He fought his way back and had a normal life, normal family life, fantastic sports career. And he was one of my mentors. Second person I wanted to mention was a lady that I met, was one of my girlfriends, met her on the dance floor, beautiful woman out there on the dance floor. All that scenario. I go out there asking for a dance, and we dance. And we're together for 2 years, a wonderful relationship. And her name was Mary, and she was at Cambridge University, and she had a tremendous mental breakdown and was afflicted with schizoaffective disorder. And she struggled with that. And when I met her, she was taking medicine, and we had a wonderful relationship. And in fact, when we split up, and that's another story for another day, but when we split up, people would say to me, oh, we knew that you were going to split up with Mary because she's mentally ill. That had nothing to do with why we split up. And to this day, she's one or two most loving, beautiful women that I ever encountered in my life. And I've met lots of wonderful folks in my life. But Mary, the schizoaffective, had to leave Cambridge after a breakdown, went back to another university, had to leave that because of another breakdown, and then kept fighting and had a wonderful psychiatrist who treated her really well, that she had a fantastic rapport with. She ended up coming off all medications after many years, getting married to a wonderful guy, having 2 beautiful children, and my wife was pregnant with our little girl we called Sarah. At the same time, we didn't even know that Mary was pregnant with her little girl that she called Sarah at the same time. So those are 2 individuals that were afflicted by mental illness that recovered completely almost, even though they had very, very serious hospitalizations and experiences. So I share those because that had an effect on me. And we, you know, the trajectory of an illness, we cannot tell what it is. We're not God. We can't predict what it's going to be. We think we know what it's going to be. We can make an educated guess that somebody may need to stay on medication their whole life, but let's leave a little opening there for people that can actually transcend that and get out of the system, and don't need people like me looking after them anymore. A couple more inspirational stories I just want to share that are much more down to in the work that we've been doing here. A couple of them stick in my mind, and there's so many of them. I remember one young fella who had problems at home, ended up, he basically, parents couldn't live with anymore. He took off, he went somewhere, he ended up in Los Angeles, and get this, he walked back from Los Angeles over several weeks. And his family called me and said, Ian, can you help? And this is when we were running a private case management program that went all around the Bay Area. We're not doing that anymore, fortunately for my health. But the parents said, can you come and help? I went out, I met him. He was in a terrible state. He still looked like the young, handsome fellow he was, but he was dirty, smelled awful. And when I noticed he was walking funny, and when I looked at the bottom of his shoes, there was no soles left on the shoes. He'd walked himself into the whole sole had gone on his shoes. So I remember going to Ross Dress for Less, picking out a new pair of shoes for him. And within short order, we were able to get him on some medicine and some structure and a good housing program. And he ended up working for one of the nonprofits in Santa Clara County as a driver for many, many years. And cute story, when I was giving a presentation to NAMI of Santa Clara County, he popped up in the audience as if he was paid by me to say, oh, this guy helped me do this. This is my story. Ian helped me. And now I've got a place to live. I've got work. I've got all these things. My life is great. You know, you couldn't have paid somebody money to say a better endorsement. But there are many, many stories. Anybody who's worked in this field, and Ned and Debbie listening to us today, they can tell you about the tremendous hopeful stories where people come in like this young fella did, just hopeless, nowhere to live, no clothes, dirty, just no motivation. And we're able to help them and get them on the right track, and they can have a life which is meaningful, a life where they can have loving relationships, a life where their families are reunited again. And let me tell you, I don't know what work you do, but there are very few opportunities in employment, I think, that are more gratifying, more rewarding than seeing somebody transcend these illnesses and come back into reality. You know, really, really connect with their families and everybody else. It's nothing quite like it. And the reason I got into the work when I first came to America was I saw the families, and I would ask myself my question, you know, what if that was my child? What if my child was doing that? How would I feel about it? And there was, back in 78, there was no help at all. And so my advice to all of you, if you want to help, and we have people looking at us, I know some of you very, very well, some of you have taken on that challenge. You said, yes, I'm going to help. And you devoted your career or your life to helping folks that are mentally ill. You don't have to devote your career to it. You can still have a profound effect, because nobody told me. I did have some training in the psychiatric hospitals in England a little bit, but for the work I did here, it was pretty much the compassion that I felt as a loving human being to help somebody that guided me. And if you've got, I want to say to everybody, if you've got the desire to help, connect with a local non-profit and say, what can I do to help? And don't, you know, if people say to you, as often they say to me, you know, this is a hopeless situation, no point in trying to help it. Don't listen to that voice. Listen to the voice in you which says, I want to help, and go out and try and help those folks. A couple other stories about people that we helped where my assessment of the situation was wrong. Yeah, early on in our 6-bed home, when I was a counsellor there, we had a young fella came from Napa. And on the very second day that he was in the program, he came in and he said, I've got a job. And I'm like, David, you don't have a job. I mean, don't tell me you have a job. The next day he shows up in a Jack-in-the-Box outfit. He's got the hat, he's got the uniform. I'm like, okay, good luck. And my gambling self was said, there's no way this guy's gonna be able to do the job. He took that job and he kept it for 2.5 years and then went on to something better. So don't ever let your feelings and your wisdom get in the way of people progressing. You know, so many stories like that. One of the other questions that came to me, what motivates you to do the work? What motivates me is, number one, I feel a sense, I've always had a sense that I wanted to serve. I'm a deeply religious person. So, and in the Jewish culture, in Islam, in Christianity, you know, there's all sorts of teaching about being to serve, you know, serve. Jesus once said, if you serve, you're the greatest of all, in one of the Gospels. And that to me has always been why I do the work. I want to serve. And another question that came was, what, in terms of the shelter in place thing, you know, what is it that, what can you say to people that are dealing with this? Well, my experience with mentally ill folks is that often they deal with reality like an epidemic much better than we do. So it's two ends of the spectrum for me. Some of my clients, they don't care. They don't think about it. They want to go out all the time. When we're telling them, take a mask, take gloves, please don't leave the program, shelter in place. So they're not worried about it. But at the other end of the spectrum, we have many people with good reason that are very scared. We have people that have complicated health issues. We have older clients. Many of our clients have been with us so many years because the programs we run, with the exception of one, is open-ended. There's no length of stay. You can stay there. Once you're in our program, you can stay there until you're medically not able to take care of yourself anymore. And so those folks, I'm tremendous sympathy for them. And we have a number of them right now that are homeless, that have different, real serious medical conditions that we have in hotels, that we're trying to take care of them in hotels, in their own individual rooms, sometimes bringing them food or whatever else they need. We're taking care of those folks. So in terms of that, the only thing I would say in terms of advice, and I can't give any advice better than any of you, which is we're going to get through it. Be smart about it, but don't be fearful about it. Do what you need to do. Governor Newsom's press conferences, I'm not a very political guy, but I've been so impressed by his press conferences and the information he gives out and the clarity in which he does it and the apolitical nature of which he does it is fantastic. So I give him kudos on that. But don't fear it. We'll get through it. Be smart. Wear your mask, wear your gloves, and just be smart about that and don't put yourself in trouble. Coming back to the issue of motivation, and how do we motivate clients? Now, as you know, if you know anything about mental illness, schizophrenia often affects motivation. Depression affects motivation. So I learned in the 6-bed home, there were simple ways to motivate people. One is always to be yourself, positive and upbeat and loving to people, to have a genuine concern about their welfare. And you don't come to work bringing your stuff. You leave your stuff at the door. And I can't tell you how many times that I've come into the program feeling sorry for myself or in a certain way I'm feeling. I begin interacting with the clients and they drag me out of myself because they're so great. And we would put what works for people that are mentally ill, especially those that are seriously mentally ill, like we take in our programs, is structure, not too much structure, but also expectations too, so that we have some expectations of what they can do. And we do an assessment of what a person can do, and we try to challenge that person gently. One of the things that always motivates folks that are mentally ill in my history often is coffee, and it motivates the rest of us too. So many of the times when I was a young counselor, we would, I would ask the whole house, 6-bed, we have the big old station wagons that were donated. I'd ask them, do you want coffee? Everybody go, oh yes. And so I said, okay, we're going out for a drive. Everybody get in the car. Before seatbelts, cram 6 people, often quite big fellas, in the car with me. We go out and we go end up to, you know, Coyote Point or somewhere. I said, what are we doing? And we're going to have a walk. You said we were going out for coffee. I said, yes, we're going to have coffee, but we're going to have a walk first, and then we do the coffee. So little things like that, where you get people to get outside of themselves, to motivate themselves, is good. Other things in motivation that we learn in dealing with people, especially those living at home with you, maybe they're not working out, maybe they're not on medicine, maybe things are difficult, maybe they've never sought treatment, maybe they're one of the third of the clients that we see that don't have insight into their illness, and many, that's something we've always specialized in at Mateo Lodge. How do you communicate with those folks? Well, what you do is you don't use high expressed emotion with them. You give your expectations clearly and lovingly. At the same time, if they want to argue, you drop that. And you just repeat the expectations and leave it and let them process it, because it's too much for them sometimes to process it. And so you don't use a lot of shouting or screaming. You just put it out there lovingly. You don't discuss it, just leave it and come back to it. That's our expectation of you. If you live in our house, that's our expectations of you. The other thing that I've learned over the years working with parents is it doesn't help if you give up your life to take care of the mentally ill person. In other words, if everything you do is wrapped around this psychosis that's going on in your home or in your life, it doesn't help that you have no life. You're in a much better position to help that person if you take care of yourself. And that sometimes is hard to do for families. And I'm very well aware, if one of my children became ill, you know, it'd be very difficult for me, I'm sure. But I've seen it so many times. If the family member is able to consciously compartmentalize, give that person what they can, and then get on with their life and feed themselves, feed their soul, feed their life, feed their sense of adventure, and whatever they want to do, just get on and have some fun, because life should be fun. And that situation often works out much, much better. So what else have we got here? I'm just thinking, there's so many things we could talk about. Yeah, one thing, when we're talking about mental illness, to me, it's such a cruel set of diseases. When I look at my life and all the stupid things I've managed to do to myself physically, you know, no fault of my own. I've had 10 different surgeries. I was born, and at the age of 11, I had to have open heart surgery as a boy in England, which of course was free, socialized medicine, yay. Didn't cost me a thing. They flew people from South Africa and the best surgeon in England to attend this little 11-year-old working class kid to make him have a life. They sewed my heart back together. I've been a fantastic athlete ever since. It's slowed down now because I'm 70, but you know, 10 different surgeries in my life, 10 different surgeries. I've survived near-death experiences on a number of occasions with surgery, and I've been hit in my adult life. I've been hit by falling trees. I've fallen off my roof. The house I'm sitting in now is a 3-story house in Santa Cruz Mountains. Beautiful place. It's really hard to shelter in place here. I can survive sheltering in place here with my beautiful Hollywood, good-looking wife and the beautiful countryside I live in. I fell off the roof, 3 stories up. fell off the roof, landed on my head. Life flighting into Stanford. In my life, I think I've broken, oh my gosh, thumbs, fingers, elbow 3 times, collarbone, sternum twice, broken 7 ribs, I've broken my neck. I'm telling you that for one reason only. I'm healthy mentally. I don't have a mental illness. Any of that stuff is easy to get over if you're mentally healthy. If you're not mentally healthy, it's much, much tougher. And all of you folks that have mental illness that touched your life, you're aware of that. And so over and above, our clients and the people in the loved ones in your family that are suffering from need love, appreciation, and sensitivity and wisdom, because they're dealing with something much worse than any of those physical adventures I've been on. And look at me, I'm fine. And I have another adventure now, which I'm not going to share with you. But because you're mentally healthy, it's amazing what people can do. When this is not right, it is so much tougher. And so all of our mentally ill folks deserve nothing but compassion. They deserve our wisdom. They deserve our time so we can think about how to help them. And they deserve not to be given up on. And with that, I think I could talk, as you probably can tell, many, many more times, but I think I'd like to take questions rather than just keep talking.
That sounds great.
All right.
Ian, thank you so much for all of that, and allows us to begin our question and answer period. And I would like to start with those who are not on video but are calling in. Please say your name and then we'll call you one by one.
Sherry?
Are there anybody else on, by phone joining us? Okay, Sherry, you're first up.
All right, thank you. I took notes. That was an excellent share for me. I had a bad head injury from a car accident when I was 16, and we're going back over 50 years. Anyway, so here we are, you know, isolating, and I live with someone, but in the first month, it was easy for me to call one person a day, feel connected, and it made my day. And now I've exhausted calling different people, and so it's about calling that person again. And my mind, my brain is saying, don't call. What are you going to say? You're not interested. You're tired. You're not focused. And I end up not calling. And I'm wondering how to get out of this mindset, because ultimately it does not.
Hey, I'm not the guru, but I'm gonna give every question you get. I'll get the shot. I'll get a shot. Number one, let me tell you, Sherry, that my wife 3 years ago got rear-ended on Highway 17 at 65 miles an hour. She was stationary. She had an incredible head injury, concussion. And I want to tell you this, Sherry, that nobody took it seriously. We had to fight for everything we got. You know, the doctors wouldn't give us anything, wouldn't sign her up for, you know, any kind of benefits or anything like that. It was because she looked fine. There was no sympathy there. So believe me, I do understand about a little bit about head injury stuff from a personal point of view as well as a professional point of view. My advice to you, in the few minutes you talked to me and everybody else, I would love to have a conversation with you. So I would say, number one, get over the fact that you're scared of calling somebody. You can always say, and I'm sure you do, because you're a sensitive, loving, caring person, hey, if you're too busy to talk right now, could you call me back later? But it's very important for you to get what you need, and you need to advocate for yourself, because there's not many people around you that are going to do that for you. So I give you permission to call anybody you want. You can even call me on your list, put me on your list if you need to talk. And if you're in a religious community or any community where love is practiced, I invite you to just go for that. And be good to yourself and tell yourself you deserve this, all right? It wasn't your fault. You deserve it. You deserve to have what you need in terms of support and a conversation. And a lot of people I know are a lot more demanding than just wanting to talk to somebody. That shouldn't be no problem. I give you permission to do it. and keep doing it, and put me on your list if you want. I'll call you back.
How do I contact you?
Well, my number, I'll give it right now. It's 371-7416. And that's a voicemail pager. And I'm gratified to tell you that only usually emergency surgeons and emergency room doctors have these anymore, but it's the old-fashioned pager. You call that number and you leave a voicemail. You'll hear my name. It says, I'm Ian. Hi, hello, this is Ian Adamson. Please leave me a voicemail message and I'll call you back as soon as I can.
Ian, what's the area code?
650. And, you know,
Great.
yeah, you can do that. And then I'll also, one of the things I've tried to do, and I've always tried to do, especially on our support team outreach workers, we try to hook people up with resources. So maybe our conversation will be 1 or 2 times, and then I'll give you a bunch of resources where, you know, you can talk. But I'm very open about my page. I always have been. Somebody wants to talk to me, I'll do my best to get back to them. Obviously, after 59 people on this, if everybody wants to talk to me, it might take a little bit of time, but we'll get it done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sharon, for the
I
question.
see that Sharon Roth has her hand up.
Yes, Sharon. Hello, Sharon. Lovely to see you.
Sharon, there you go. You
Same here,
Mental
Ian.
health champion. Sharon Roth.
Just want to let you know,
Yeah.
let everybody know, I have nursing students that would love to have conversations with people that need somebody to talk to.
There you go.
They've been unable to have their patient contact because the hospitals have closed them out. So they need hours of talking to people and they're willing to make phone calls. So I will give you my cell phone number and anybody can call me and I'll take your number and relate it on to a student who can call you.
Great.
Thank you, Sharon. And while Sharon's there, I want to give her kudos. She started the crisis intervention training where all police officers in San Mateo County are working towards being crisis intervention trained so they can deal with mentally ill folks much more effectively. That's Sharon. Thank you for your service, my dear.
Sharon, did you want to offer your phone number now or?
Yes. Yeah, I tried to chat, but it's not working on my computer. So it's 410-8872, and it's a 408 number. 408-410-8872.
Sharon, is it okay if I put it in the chat for everyone to see?
Sure.
Very good. Any other questions that anyone has?
I have a question.
Go ahead. What's your name?
Hello, Ian. This is Patrick Field.
Hello, Patrick. Long time.
You hear me?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah. So one question. See, the question is, like, there's so much problem with housing right now. Do you think that do you think the board and care homes are the best at helping people, or do you think that living independently is, or what do you think people should do who can't find housing? What's the best solution to it, do you think?
Well, you know, one of the things, I'm glad, like Newsom recently started talking about board and care homes. Let me tell you, in the real world of mental health, we'd be absolutely sunk if I'm talking about private board and care homes, not my programs or anything. These are board and care homes run by compassionate people. And hey, some of them are great, but most of them, the people are in it for the right motives. These are small homes run by compassionate individuals where the state allows the folks to live there. They give them about $1,100 a month. They pay for board and care. And I think that they're amazing programs, most of them. And I think that all the counties would do well to expand that program. And they're talking about doing that finally. And you know, we are licensed under, our programs are licensed under residential care licensing, the same licensing outfit that does the board and care homes. I think they've always been good value for money, and the folks that live there in general, and if you got one in your neighborhood, I would advise you go knock on the door and say, is there anything I can do to help you? They're not used to that. They're used to everybody saying, not in my backyard. And I could tell you lots of stories about how we cited programs. And over at Cassia, we have a program called Cassia House in Redwood City, which is a 14-bed licensed residential care home. When we went in there, we had virtually no opposition, but we did have opposition from the business. But we went in there, cleaned up that. The next door house was a crack house. Yeah. And we went in there. It's a great story.
I'm sorry, would everyone put themselves on mute so that we can hear Ian?
So we went in there, and it could make a movie out of how we cleaned up this program. We turned it into a mothers and babies house for mentally ill folks. It was a crack house. So here's a mentally ill program coming into a neighborhood, and everybody's like, oh, no, 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 we don't want that. They'd rather have the crack house. Come on. So, you know, if they're right, these board and care homes are doing a fantastic job. They get paid very little. They really do. They don't make a lot of money. And often they are, and I feel so much compassion right now for the nursing homes and the situation they're in. Those folks that work in those nursing homes, oh my gosh, they are up against it with COVID-19. But our board and care homes, our system would collapse without them. It really would. And most of the staff are minority and fantastic, beautiful, loving human beings. And so I'd say, Patrick, that we support them as well as lots of other things. But we're still wasting our money on lots of other things, you know, and I could give you a list if you want, but I might get in trouble. But
Thank you. I want to, the phone number you put up for Sharon is missing.
So it's 408.
Go ahead.
Trying to unmute Sharon.
I have it here. 408 410 8872. 2 is missing.
Okay, and we also have a question in the chat from Audrey.
Yes, I have access to that. Okay. So it looks like there are several questions in this question. So let me pose this to you, Ian, in 3 parts.
Okay.
First of all, bless you, Audrey says. And thank you.
Come on, bless me. I like it.
And thank you for sharing your vision. The first part of the question has to do with referrals to your program.
Yeah.
How clients get referred? Do they have to only do this only through homelessness or post-hospitalization?
Okay. Yeah. You want to take that one now? That's easy.
Take that one, and then I'll ask the other 2 parts after you're done.
Referral, usually because the county fund most of our beds, the county want to go through what's called the adult resource management team. But what you should do is have a conversation with me about your particular situation. And, you know, there may be a way that we can work with it or work around it. So a referral, most of our beds are for people that are coming out of the hospitals still. But, you know, there's always room, you know, for maneuver. I'd recommend if you're looking at those issues, give me a call and let's talk about it offline. And I can tell you exactly how things work and how they don't work. All right.
Thank you. Second part of the question is, what is your advice to families of those living with a family member who has mental illness? They providing housing to their loved one, but who find this difficult, or the family member hates it and has no other choice other than homelessness?
Right. Well, thank you for that question. That is a wonderful question. And like I said earlier, we don't let our folks become homeless if we can at all stop it. And about 4 years ago, Ned Brasher's on the line here. He's sitting there. Hey, Ned. He and myself started a team in the county of San Mateo called the Family Assertive Support Team. And Ned, God bless him, ran that team for 3 years, I think. And what we specialize in, and that team is still going, and we take in referrals, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is if you have a family member living at home, and typically what we're looking for is people that have never been in the system. So we're actually looking for people that have never been medicated, never been to a psychiatrist. Why? Because they don't think there's anything wrong with them. Sometimes they're acting out, sometimes they're violent, whatever. We take those. In addition, though, if you're having a problem with somebody and you're living at home with them and you just want to talk and get some qualified experiential advice, give me a call. We'll put you in touch with one of the members of the Family Assertive Support Team. And that team is a knockdown, drag out, fantastic outreach team. And we have people on that team that just I think, are just very close to sainthood. And Ned inspired all of that and helped me start that off. So that's going on. And you can call me and ask about the FAST team.
So there's resources out there for you folks living with family members.
Yep.
And the third part of the question is, how can we get more residential programs for those who are stable but wish more independence?
Well, I don't think in America, this is America. God bless America. I love America. America's been very, very good to me. My dad was a Second World War sergeant, fought with the Americans all up through Italy. Sorry to any Italians here. Very profound respect for American culture and the American values. However, in America, you have to fight for everything you want. You have to fight for it. These parents that were so inspired lovingly to go through, ignore the barriers and go through and pound on the congressman's desk, that's what it takes. You can talk to Sharon Roth about how she got started, and she'll tell you there were times you have to convince people you are not going to be blown off, you are not going to be ignored, that you want what you want because it's worth it. Nobody's going to argue with you that we need more mental health resources. And once you're in my position where I'm actually, taking money to do a job, I have less credibility than you do as a parent. Parents have tremendous credibility, tremendous power. And the first thing to do, if you want to make a difference, is to join the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. That's a fantastic organization. It's local. It meets every month. Wonderful people. You meet with everybody else who's having similar issues, and you can fight for more funding for mental health and board and care homes and just residential programs in general, and and more client-driven programs like we have, like different ones in our county. So that's what you do. Get active, join an army, become political in the right sense. And here's something I've really learned, that I don't have to be obnoxious to put a point of view across. Sometimes I come across as passionate because I feel it so deeply. If I send somebody to the emergency room, say in one of the emergency rooms just releases that person after we've spent hours trying to get them there, I'm angry about that. And, to use an analogy, that's like Jesus cleaning the temple. Or like Elijah, if we want a Jewish analogy from the Jewish religion, Elijah and the prophets of Baal, you get animated and put your point across seriously because you feel it so deeply. That's how you make change. It's not by being sheepish and sitting on your backside and expecting somebody else to do it. You do it, and you do it in a nice, solid, loving way that says, look, I'm going to be nice to you, but I'm not going to be ignored. Something must
Thank you,
change.
Ian. Thank you.
I want to jump in.
Yeah.
Michael Lim wants to share a few resources from NAMI since we were just on the subject.
Oh, right.
So I think it's a good time for him to, you're unmuted, Michael.
Yeah, no. Thanks.
Michael.
My name.
Michael, would you please, someone was asking what the acronym NAMI means. Could you please start with that?
Yeah, NAMI stands for National Alliance for Mental Illness. And they've got affiliates all over the country and all throughout California also. And the local chapter here is in San Mateo, just off of Borel. Anyway, I personally volunteer a lot around the county in terms of mental health and also at NAMI. And I just want to share some resources, especially for the previous caller. I believe her name is Sherry, that wanted to, wanted some human connection and wanted to call out to somebody and just talk to somebody. At NAMI, we have a peer support group called Connection, and that happens every Mondays and Thursdays from 7:30 to 8. And the way to get in on it is to call the NAMI office, and they will get you onto their email list and send out the Zoom link every Monday and Wednesday morning. Now,
Can you give that phone number, Michael?
I'm sorry?
The phone number for NAMI?
Yeah, the phone number, let me pick it up on my phone. It's area code 650-638-8255. 650-638-0800. Once again, it's 650-638-0800. Now, what we try to do also is to bring down the barrier of entry as low as possible. So, you don't need to have a computer, you don't need to have an email address. If all you have is just a flip phone, I mean, not even a smartphone. Okay. Well, unfortunately, pages don't work, Ian. So.
Yeah.
So if you have just a flip phone, I am able to connect you to the meeting. The office will connect you, will give you a number to call me on those days right before the meeting, and I will walk you through how to connect to the meeting every Mondays and Thursdays. Now, that's for NAMI. If you really need to talk to somebody, NAMI also has a warm line. Call that same number and somebody will get on the line and just chat with you, if you need some human contact. Now, volunteering around the county, I know that there's a few other organizations that offer warm lines also. If you could check into California Clubhouse, Heart and Soul, and also Voices of Recovery. They have warm lines every so often. So if you could call their main number, they will put you in touch with somebody. So don't despair, just because you are suffering from mental illness and you think that you're uninteresting to talk to. There are lots of people out there with mental illness who truly understand the feelings that you're going through. So don't hesitate to reach out.
I think that would go as well for those who may not have clinical diagnosis themselves, but who have a loved one that they're concerned about. And NAMI is a great resource. If you have missed any of the resources Michael just shared, please just call NAMI or go online and look at their website. There's a great links to many, many other resources. Thank you, Michael, for sharing. And I would be remiss if I did not thank NAMI San Mateo County for being such a great partner of Let's Talk Mental Health. They have helped promote each of our sessions, and they've been a wonderful organization. Thank you, Michael, for all of that.
And also in honor of May being Mental Health Awareness Month, our synagogue every Friday, each month, we invite our congregants to make tzedakah or charity donations. And this month, all of our charity donations we're directing towards NAMI San Mateo.
Oh, wonderful. Great news. So there was a question by Judy asking Ian if you would please repeat the name of I think it was the crisis support team.
Okay, I'll be happy to do that. There is no such thing as a crisis support team.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. Thanks for bringing that up, because everybody is they think we're a crisis team because we actually do a lot of things for the families that there's nobody else willing to go out other than police. So, so I just want to put that out there. We have a support team, which is a team that will help families with issues around homelessness. And sometimes we can get involved for case management purposes and things like that. But it's not a crisis team. You call us, we'll call you back eventually. It may take a day or two, but don't please call us if you have somebody smashing up the house or, hurting themselves. Call 911. And I want to reiterate that because everybody calls us the crisis team. And I'm like, we're not the crisis team. Well, do we take care of pre-crisis situations? Yes, hopefully we do a lot of that. But a crisis where something needs to happen now is not us. That's the police. And we work with Sharon, we've worked very diligently to try and encourage all the police officers in the county to be trained in mental health intervention. And that's going really well. Over 50% of San Mateo officers have been trained at San Mateo City. And so that's The same number, if you have an issue around that you think the support team may be able to help you can use it. Call my number. We'll talk about it.
Repeat your number again, please.
Yeah, 650-371-7416.
Very good. Thank you.
And don't, if all 59 of you call, it's going to take me a day or two to get back, but we'll do our best.
Hey, Ian, it's Matt Sweeney. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Hey,
How
Matt.
you doing? Great job. Great talk. Yeah, I just wanted to throw my number out there too, so for anybody that's calling for the FAST team, that they can call my direct number as well, and that's 650-371-0407. So our target.
0407.
Matt, quickly, if you would, introduce yourself and your association.
Yeah, sure. I work for Mateo Lodge. Ian's my captain, and I'm the director of the FAST team, and the target population that we're looking for, people that have not been connected to mental health services yet, or they were at one point and may have dropped out. They have to be living at home. And so we do short-term case management and supporting the family and also the person that has the mental health diagnosis. So even if there's a suspicion, like maybe they're having some prodromal symptoms, they're not quite sure what's going on, that would be an appropriate call, and they can call me directly at that number.
Thank you very much for speaking up.
Matt, I didn't know you were on. That's great. Matt is the current leader of the FAST team. He took over from Ned.
Yep.
Number, Matt Sweeney.
What's that?
Repeat the number, please.
Sure, 650-371-0407.
Thank you.
And I generally get back to people same day, usually within 24 hours.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Audrey. Great answers, Ian. Thank you. NAMI San Mateo has a housing group working on ideas for long-term housing. Question: how many residential homes does Mateo Lodge run, and do you have plans to expand?
We have 3 currently. We're a total of 57 clients. We have a 30-bed program, a 13-bed program, a 14-bed program. We would love to expand on our terms, but the counties, that in spite of all the great things we've done, I kind of feel like it's a battle for money. And my experience is that only when people at the top are kind of forced into doing something will they do it. There's always a huge battle. Anytime, like for example, when Proposition 63 was passed, then law enforcement got very interested in mental health because there was money there. And folks like us that have been doing it since 75, it's kind of hard. I can't get up and keep saying, give me the money, give me the money, give me the money. That needs to come from the community, not from me. It's like, you know what I mean? It has to be.
We have a number of questions in the wings, so I want to move in. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Paul is asking 2 questions. Do you see a move from Governor Newsom to change laws that allows family members to make decisions on behalf of mentally ill members? And the second part of the question is, given the current situation, do you feel that evictions of a mental ill person in San Mateo or California will, and then the question goes off.
Okay, no problem. Well, let's answer the first one. The eviction question. Right now, everybody's saying you can't evict anybody because of COVID, and so it's a unique situation right now. But again, evictions. Nobody wants a homeless person or a mentally ill person to become homeless on the street. But what we will do, if a person's behavior, if they're not on medicine and they're acting out and it's all hitting the fan and not going on and they're not getting any help, sooner or later, the reality is a landlord or somebody's going to bump up against that and evict that person. What we try to do, if we know about it, is we'll turn up on eviction day. And we've literally done this and said, hey, the sheriffs are coming, and they come and they literally put you on the sidewalk with a bag and then they leave. And then we're there, and if we know about it, we'll say, hey, let's help you. Let's put you in a motel. Let's take you somewhere. At that point, that mentally ill person is way more willing to listen and get some help because he has no choice. Is there a better way to do it? Yeah, sure. Wish we didn't have to do any of that, but the reality is that's the world we live in. Now, the other one was on families. Could you repeat that for me, David? Families?
Yeah, so given the current situation, do you feel that evictions of a mentally ill person in San Mateo or California will, and then, I'm sorry, the question.
Yeah, I thought I answered that one. What's the other first question?
The first question was about Governor Newsom changing laws.
Well, you live
Family members to make decisions on behalf of the mentally ill. And if you think about Laura's law, I think there's a relation to that.
Well, there is this battle that goes on, and I know where I come down on it. I work with family members, and the reason I work with families is because I'm so impressed with the families and the amount of love that they put in their mentally ill family members. However, it doesn't mean to say that sometimes a mentally ill person can't be taken advantage of his family. For example, we quite often get calls of a person who is living with his mum or dad and they die and he's living in the house by himself. We get a call from another family member on the other side of the country want us to get him out of there. And I'm like, what's that motivation? Is it that they just want a house? You know, so you have to be aware of that. There's all sorts of slippery slopes there. So look at it. In terms of Gavin Newsom, I've been very impressed with him lately with the press conferences over COVID. I'm a Democrat, I'll confess that. But, you know, I'm very impressed with him. And he's talked about building care homes getting more money. He's talked about, there's been movements where people that are completely always 911, 911, 911. Let's stop that cycle. It doesn't help anybody. It certainly doesn't help that person to be continually 911 and released. We've got to do something better. And from my perspective, as old as I am, I remember the state hospitals. I remember Agnew's. I remember Napa State Hospital. I remember the hospital I trained in. Get this, the hospital I trained in had its own political system. It had its own farm, organic farming, everything. When the clients were told they had to leave that community, they were devastated by it. That was their home. They had a fantastic quality of life. So this deinstitutionalization equals good. I'm not down with it. I've seen that, you know, we're dealing with that right now. Look around San Mateo, look around Santa Cruz, look around San Francisco. Homeless people everywhere. You know, we've got to do better.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Audrey, for putting up a link in the chat for the Family Assertive Support Team, or FAST, that we heard both from Mike Sweeney and Ian about. There's also a link there. If you Google it, Family Assertive Support Team, San Mateo County, I'm sure the link will come up for you as well. Let me see here. Is there a counterpart to the FAST team in the East Bay, in the Hayward area for seniors that you're aware of?
No.
Okay.
No answer. I don't think so. I don't know.
Phone number for the Heart and Soul Warm Line is 650-231-2024. Thank you to Terry Greenwood. Again, that is 650-231-2024.
Feel free also, David, with a question about the East Bay. Go to your congressman and say, in San Mateo, they have this. Why don't you have it here? And they may say, well, we do have something here. And then you'll find out. But don't, you know, go to the mental health director or go to a congressperson and say, why
There's also a NAMI in every county, including the East Bay. So hook up with NAMI.
Let's start, yes.
Thanks for clarifying, Matt, about the purpose of FAST. This is a question to you. I also thought it was a crisis mainly. I think it's also available to consumers who have private health insurance, which unfortunately behavioral health services is not. Private health insurance provides no case management or housing. Any comments from Ian or Michael on that?
Matt, it's Matt. Do you want to take it, Matt?
I'm sorry, Matt. Thank you.
Matt? Oh, he's unmute Matt. Can you unmute him?
Matt, you're muted.
Okay, well.
Okay, here we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our program doesn't cost anything. You don't have to have any insurance or any money. And what was the other part of that question? I'm sorry.
Let me see. thought that the fast was for crisis mainly, but that's
Okay. Yeah. So that's we're often referred to as a crisis intervention team, but as Ian said before, we end up doing crisis situations. But if you need somebody out immediately, that's a call to the police. So we end up doing crisis interventions, but we're not a crisis intervention team, if that makes sense. So that's not our primary goal. Our primary goal is outreach, support families, educate where needed, make a connection with the client, find out what that client needs to achieve their goals. Sometimes that is a crisis. Often it actually turns into a crisis, but we're not a crisis intervention team. So the person just has to be living at home with their family, and family, that's a loose definition. So almost anybody. Yeah.
Whether they have private insurance is irrelevant. We'll
right.
help them. Yeah.
Okay. We are closing soon. I wanted to share some resources, tools that have come across my desk and my work. And Lisa, if you wouldn't mind putting up the CARES card, sharing your screen with everybody. So I work for Kaiser San Francisco, and as we are gearing up, my formal title is Ombuds Mediator, but I have been working with a number of others in the Kaiser San Francisco organization who have mental health backgrounds. And this is something that we are developing for different levels of personnel, from doctors to everybody else in the organization, to helping to care for one another. And it's something that is a great acronym for you to consider, CARES card. So the C for check, as Ian had talked about earlier, making sure that your own state of well-being is in good place, because you can't help others if you are in need. And then the act of listening in and of itself, just being present, is a helpful tool. And recognizing others' emotions, helping them to label those emotions or describe them, is in and of itself helpful. Being able to articulate how one is feeling. And then empathy, not sympathy, but empathy, giving credence to person's experiences, even if their perspective is different from yours. Their experience is validated, is important. And the sharing of tools, ideas, and resources is something that has to be done in context. It's when someone is interested or in need of tools, ideas, and resources. I think when a lot of us think about helping somebody else, we think about what is it we can say to them that will make it better. And everything else that precedes the sharing has to do with listening. And that's the first line of support. With the sharing of ideas, tools, and resources that we have done today, is an example of when people are open and interested in it, then helping make those connections. I also wanted to share the next slide, which is about psychological first aid. This is something you can Google, looking up psychological first aid. There's a couple of apps out there for your phone that really gives these kind of how to help. You don't have to be a mental health professional to bring help to others. Again, enhancing one's safety is a priority, helping with the basic needs, helping just being that stable, calming presence, and again, listening with genuine care and helping someone maybe to organize their thoughts, their questions, their concerns, and then empowering them to use the tools that they already have for coping, and helping them regain a sense of control is a step towards healing. And then, when needed, connections to mental health services and support systems, both formal and informal. We're all going through a sort of trauma, and and I say we, I mean everybody, from our doctors, nurses, to the community at large, are going through an experience with this COVID situation that will manifest in different kinds of anxiousness and anxiety and concern for folks, lack of sleep, not eating well, not taking care of yourself. So all of these don't mean that you necessarily have a psychological diagnosis. There's that unfortunate story we heard from last weekend of an ER doctor out in New York who committed suicide, unfortunately. She did not have any history of mental illness. She was succumbing to a traumatic event that she was experiencing in New York. And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid with everybody else. And then again, helping people get access to information and resources that we have so eloquently done today. I want to thank everybody. Our time is almost up. Rabbi Delson, I'd like to hand it off to you to bring it home.
Great. So this is a prayer from Rabbi Naomi Levy, and it's a prayer for humility to learn from others. God, you have filled this world with so many good and wise people. Grant me the humility to seek out many teachers. Give me the courage to ask for help, the ability to distinguish wisdom from folly, the willingness to embrace new thoughts. May my learning lead me to insight, reverence, to love, and to you. Thank you, God, for bringing us together today to learn from one another and be in a sense of community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today.
Thank you, David. It was a real pleasure.
Ian, you were wonderful. Thank you so much. Matt, thank you for sharing your resources as well.
You bet. I loved it. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah.